Hi, everybody. It's Amalia, founder of S.T.E.M Braids and Beyond and host of the Silver Bullet S.T.E.M podcast. Today, I have an incredible guest for everybody. I'm probably going to be veering off a little bit off script because he's such a plethora of knowledge and I cannot wait to jump into his mind. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. Hi, good to see you again. It's been a little while. Happy to be here. My name is Dennis Morgan. Hello, it's nice to meet everybody. Uh, I am the Chief Creative Officer of Harlem Collab. I'm also a part-time instructor. I'm in a games research lab here at Teachers College at Columbia University, where I instruct both in game design, intro to game design or video games in education, and in advanced game design. By practice, I am a game designer. By profession, I've been doing product work for many years. Product and project management for probably almost 30 years now.
Wow.
I'm happy to be here in the technology and digital sector specifically.
How can anybody get in touch with you?
Oh, yeah. So if you're looking to reach me, you can reach me at Dennis at Dennis, DENNIS at harlemcollab.com.
Awesome. So you said you do product work. For the underrepresented community, some people may not know what that is. So tell us
Ooh.
what work is.
Yeah, product work. What is product work? So in software, the apps that you use on your phone, the web pages that you engage with on your computers, oh boy, when it comes to digital, and when I say digital, I mean anything that's delivered through a screen or an interface. That's usually what constitutes digital. It's kind of a broad range. But what I'm responsible for is making sure that we create software and interactions and interfaces that make sense to the people that are going to use them. As a product manager, you're generally like the CEO of a specific type of technology. And that technology, again, can range from most of the time it's something that has an interface, but some of the times it doesn't at all. Some of the times we have product managers and product owners who deal with backend, what I call back or what are called backend systems. So these are things that you don't see. So an AI could potentially be a backend system. A database could be a backend system. So for instance, if we talk about the YouTube or streaming service that you might be looking at this through, there is someone who manages the updates and the creation of the interface that you're looking at this video through. There are a team of people that help to make it happen. I am usually responsible for managing that team of people. I currently have a contract with Mars Pet Food and Candy, where I'm doing more less work that is consumer facing and more work that I would call back end or administrative facing. I spend a lot of time determining workflows. So as a product manager, I'm responsible for making sure that the Mars associates who do marketing have an interface or a tool that they can use that helps them to optimize their content. So the commercials that you see, the images that you see, anything in advertising, not really around the product. So the candy itself is not something I work on, but it's the materials that go around that. The packaging, the boxes, the banner ads, the videos, all of that stuff I'm responsible for to make sure that it is right, looks right, stays on brand, and can be delivered to you as a consumer. So product covers everything that you engage with, especially as it relates to software and digital. I don't know if that explains it. I hope so.
Oh, absolutely. So, in terms of technology, will that field be like a UX UI designer?
Boy, another great question. Amalia, that's a great question. So my practice in product really sits from a UX and UI perspective. I am a designer by practice and trade, so I love to work in the digital space. I'm also a writer, so dealing with content. My undergrad degree is in writing and creative writing, so I'm always trying to describe and explain through visuals and words. I do a lot of UX. So when we talk about UX, we're talking about user experience. I'm talking about in a digital experience, what is the first thing that I'm expecting my users or participants to do? What is the next thing I'm expecting them to do? What are the things that are in front of them that give them choice and agency in the experience? So if we, again, think about maybe you're looking at this on YouTube or something, there are buttons that you're going to click to say pause, stop, fast. I think you can like double click on the right side of the screen that say move it forward 10 seconds or backwards 10 seconds, or there's an interface that pops up that says, you know, do this 1.5 times faster, 1.5 times slower. All of those things would be parts and pieces that I would design or talk to a team about designing. We usually in product, especially if I'm thinking about UX, I'll describe things at a very high level. I want the user or the participant or the player to be able to do this thing. I want them to be able to move faster through the video. That doesn't specifically state I want to have a button. I will work with the team on what that interaction needs to look like. I'll draw what I usually call boxes and arrows. These are user experience diagrams that explain what is it that I'm trying to get the person to do. This exists in games, which I love and do so much, but it also exists in my professional corporate career. Generally, for me, at the level that I'm at, I usually have a team of people that work for me, and I'll usually work with them to understand how do we get to these things, and I'll guide and direct them with a guiding vision or an understanding of what our bigger corporate goals or what are the bigger strategic goals that we're trying to accomplish over the next year, 2 years, 4 years, and I'll help them accomplish that. Does that explain it?
Oh, absolutely. Gems. I feel like a jewelry store. Was this your childhood dream job?
Oh God, no. God, no. Who knew? So back when I got into product, there wasn't really a product manager. So childhood dream job, I think I wanted to be a lawyer. I remember doing an elementary school project where they were like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I thought, well, lawyer, because they make lots of money. Like, you know, we all sort of grow up in this capitalistic society. My thoughts have changed incredibly, like full transformation now. It's not really about that. It's about helping people and bettering people and getting them to what they want to, like trust, empowering them to be their greatest. I love that. Yeah, right. I love that too. When people are happy and I see growth, I'm so happy about that. But yeah, the dream job for me, sort of, I've stumbled into this. If I could give you take a couple minutes just to explain. I was a very slow developer with school. I did not get, don't show this to my kids. I hope they don't find this. I did not get good grades in school. I want to be this shining light of achievement to them, but it didn't start that way. I was very underachieving, and I came from single parent household. We didn't have a lot of money. We were on government assistance. But the one thing that my parents did, my mother did in particular, is like kept us on track. There was so much accountability that was needed in our home, and it came from the most loving place. But there was a lot of arguments. I now have a 15-year-old son in my house, and I see what I used to be, I think. So I understand the challenges that she was up against, and how having constraints and restrictions as part of her parenting practice was one that allowed me to stay focused, make a commitment, which I think is the hardest thing for young people at this stage. Is like, you don't really sort of understand the work ethic and the practice that's being instilled in you when things are, you know, when parents are like, no, I need you to take out the trash. I need you to do these things. I need you to say, if you're going to do your homework, that you are going to do it. Like, those sort of things matter in the long run, because it builds a sense of worth and ethic. Like, I can say something and commit to it, which is really how I was able to get to where I am. I started in my first jobs were with retail. Like, that's where I worked. It was retail, and I hate retail. I don't want to work there again. That's not what I want to do. But I realized the value of education. My mother sort of gave me an ultimatum. She was like, you're either going to work full time and go to school full time, or you're going to go to school full time, or you're going to work full time. Like, it's either going to be both or one or the other. I chose I chose school full time and work part time because I needed money, and she wasn't going to give me any money. So the practicality, I'm going to have to do something. So I had one thing that I was able to do is, and I think this often is the case because some of the times, especially back in the 80s, this is the 80s. Back in the 80s, English language classes, like liberal arts classes, they were what I loved and my passion. I was in a rap group, just like everybody now
Ooh,
and back then. Yeah. But one thing I could do was like really focus on math, and I had a decent math grade. And I remember going in with that ultimatum on my shoulder into a counselor's office at the city college. I was in Los Angeles, so city college was a sort of like kind of like prep schools. The one that I was at is much more mature and evolved from. I was at Pasadena City College. Um, but what it did for me was gave me an opportunity to have a talk with someone who looked at my record and really looked at me. Not necessarily for me. I was a young black man sitting in front of them, or a young man sitting in front of them, and I think it was more my record that they were looking at than who was sitting in front of them, which I think played to my favor. Because I told her my dilemma. I said, "Look, my mom's gonna kick me out of the house. I need something to do." So she was like, "Well, you've done some math work. You could take this class because this teacher has given people opportunities to start working." And the thing that she explained to me was, I think, the thing that was most interesting to me. And it was a class called laser electro-optics.
mm.
And I was like, lasers? Like, that resonated. I was like, Star Wars is something I grew up with and loved.
You were like, oh.
I said, I can work with lasers, like laser guns. Is that really a thing in this world? I didn't know I had agency to be in this space. Nobody's ever told me this. So I started taking classes. I met a guy who had shown me what I call the model for taking marginalized youth and pushing them through a pipeline to financial success. His name is Dr. Wei-Min Liu. He's still teaching, I believe, at some of the schools. Like, he might still be at Pasadena City College. He might still be there helping. He's Chinese, and he had a pipeline for taking marginalized Chinese students and bringing them through to a career and financial stability. And I took his class. I think he liked me. I liked Wei-Min too. He taught a great class. He was so energetic. And the one thing that really helped is he was teaching optics, but he didn't require that we knew calculus. He's like, I can teach you optics without calculus.
Yeah.
It's just geometry. And he's like, I'm going to give you geometry. And I had geometry in high school. I didn't like it. It was hard.
Yeah.
But he really made it approachable. It was in his teaching style. So I've had people ask me a question like, who showed you how to do these things? Or like, back up. Who is the most impactful teacher that you've ever had?
Wow.
And it's something that touches us through every year of our growth. And I remembered one was a math teacher who, like, I learned how to do math in his class, and it was basic algebra, but he stuck with me. Like, I couldn't unlearn it. He was so good at what he did. And then it was Wei-Min Liu, because not only did he show me how to do more advanced math and algebra, but he showed me that there's a way for people who don't look like what we see success look like could actually, like, get a job. And that was the thing I needed, because I got to get out of my mother's house, right? Like, that was the goal. So that again was like, my goal is to get out of her house so I can become independent and do my thing. And he was like, without him saying this, I started to see that there was a connection. So I started in laser electro-optics. I was taking his class at City College. He was like, hey, I've got an opportunity at the university. I think you should go to the university. And these are things that are way outside of like anything I had ever imagined. I got really bad grades. I barely graduated high school and didn't have much direction. It took me a year and a half to get my feet underneath me from high school graduation. But by the time I'm there, and he's like, you should apply for a loan. And now, loans I would never recommend for anyone, but it got me out. It was a risk I had to take, and I was willing to take it. So I got in on a Pell Grant and was able to go to a private school where he was able to get me in. And he got me a job working in the lab, and he really, really built confidence. And I think that's what I'm trying to do in my professional work for students, is like build the confidence, because that's really what it takes, a lot of that. So from there, I'm talking too much. I know yeah. So I won't talk much longer, but it's an interesting journey. So out of that, I had tried to apply to a lot of jobs, and he would basically be like, yeah, here's a job. This is one you can apply to. You have the skills. Go there. I will call the people, let them know that you're coming, which was great because he cleared the path. I didn't get all of them, but the one that I did get got me into product, which was I worked at a medical facility, and I was it repaired. At the time, they had these things called rigid endoscopes. Now they use flexible tubes that go inside your body to do surgery. At the time, they used very rigid ones. And this company repaired them, and they taught you how to repair them. The thing with repairing, it takes these really fine motor skills that I didn't have. I was breaking things all the time, and they would get so mad because these things cost out. These lenses are very tiny. I don't know if you can see my fingers, they're super tiny. You had to get like a little thing to look at them and my tweezers, and I would break these lenses all the time. And they're $1,000, $500, $200 per lens. So one thing they didn't do was give up on me. And what they said was like, well, if you like breaking these things so much, maybe you can help with the head. They had a head foreman. He's going to teach you how to disassemble. I was like, disassemble? I'm breaking things all the time. That's not a problem. Do that.
Sign me up.
Yeah. So I learned how to take them apart. And he was the only one who they would trust to take these things apart. And I learned how to take them apart. It was really very easy. After that, they were like, we're sending this guy out. He's just coming back. I hadn't seen him because when I started, he wasn't there. He was in England, but he came back and they taught him how to assemble, like build the bodies, the rigid bodies, these stainless steel and so forth. So I learned how to do that. And eventually I got a team, and I was the only person at the company who could assemble these scopes. I was building them. And the thing that was more of the artisan product part is I was learning how to build them and create new angles for them, because the scopes go into the body, and instead of having to move them around, they create angles of vision so you could see backwards, or you could see forward, or you could see at a degree angle. And that way, when you put them in, you just put a scope in, it looks at the area you want to see. Maybe you can see my hands now. It looks at the area you want to see, and then you do all your work with the tools, and the scope just sits there. So I learned how to do that, and that was really what my first product experience. And from then on, I've been in tech fields. Like that helped. It helped because I felt like I belonged. I felt confident. I got a job at a federally funded research and development corporation next, doing atomic clocks, which I had never imagined could even be a thing. But because I had gotten that job, I now had a resume that said I had done technical work that put me in that lab. And then I went back to school and finished my undergrad, which was in creative writing, because that's what I loved. And physics is hard and calculus is hard. And I was good at math, but not that good. And then from there, I got a job. The internet blew up, and I got myself into a place where I could do internet stuff. And I've been marching on since there. There's a whole story. I don't want to take up all the time. There's probably other stuff I could talk about. But yeah, that's been the path. Not my dream job. Stumbled into this.
I love a couple things you're saying, because university is the thing that gave you the access to the connection that gave you the path. There are people who are like, kids should just do trades and the hands-on skill. And I feel like if you get into the classroom, right, opportunities come. That's the same journey for me. Like, I was always really good at math, but I felt like there was no practical application. I got into my first statistics class, and we were using statistics to analyze candy. And I saw the connection between math, and went on to pursue a master's in analytics because it lit a fire in my soul. So had I done a hands-on skill, I would have never academic exposure to realize I was capable of more, which led me, that journey, not to pull away from your story.
No, please.
That led me to the journey of making the STEM connections I did. I literally could have never made this in a hands-on learning program. So like you, like, I took a chance and took out a loan. There are scholarships now, but we're doing ourselves service as people of color by saying that the classroom is not a place. There are classes that would be hard, classes that would be easy. Find the things that marry up the classes. That's something I did. I did 2 classes I loved and 2 classes I hated.
Yeah. Because you got to balance.
Right. So that I had something to look forward to after I hated biology.
Yeah. But yet, to your point, right? So I am a hands-on person. Like, my abilities exist because I can touch things and I can understand the world makes sense through that.
Don't pretend. You said you were breaking stuff.
I'm going back further before I started breaking stuff. But the thing that made sense to me, and that this touches on the point, is like, I was able to understand optics because they put me in a lab. My strengths have been in the lab. And this is where I can take, hey, I saw that formula here, but I'm actually seeing it play out here. I can